That's nice.
That's our business.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:35. And all the planning commission members are present. Does anyone have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Give me 30 seconds to remember it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm sorry. You through, Will?
No, go ahead.
I sent an email to everybody on the process for filling vacancies on the planning commission. I'd like to put that under correspondence.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I would like to add. That I'd like to add discussion of Board of Trustees authorization to the Planning Commission to perform those duties that require approval by the Board of Trustees.
What?
Could you restate your motion? I got lost on the turn there.
So,
I think that we amend the agenda to add discussion of board authorization for activities of the Planning Commission requiring authorization from the board.
okay, we can get into more specifics
Yes.
when we get to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. Discuss Board of Trustees
Approval
approval, okay,
for those activities
for those activities
of the Planning Commission
of the Planning Commission
that requires the Board of Trustees
that
approval.
requires Board of Trustees approval. Okay, got it. Thank you. And where do you want to put that, Mr. Chairman?
Let's put it under new business.
New business, okay. Got it.
Do we might have a motion for that or no? I don't think so. Okay. Does anybody have any changes that need to be made to the minutes from March 22nd?
Under
Okay. Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted from March 22nd, 2016.
second.
All those in favor?
Which one are you second? Who's
Alexander.
fastest? Okay.
Please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in attendance who is not on the agenda and would like to speak?
Any more copies of my moment?
I didn't make any more, no. Sorry. Usually you and Mike are. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'm here just to point out that a motion, or not a motion, I guess it was a motion, 2 boards ago, dealing with the street out here, and Mr. Howard Price brought it up and called me up to the front, and we did a little song and dance to name the street out here. And the board at that time passed the resolution, and nothing's happened yet. They've sent I guess we directed the head of Public Works to go ahead and have the sign made, but it hasn't been posted yet. And it gets in the minutes. So I was just wondering if the planning commission is gonna go ahead and take care of that.
Can you, I'm not following.
The street out here doesn't have a name.
Oh, the street.
Which street, the one that comes up to the,
It comes up to the
Oh.
town hall.
Mhm.
And at that time, Mr. Price and I got together and we said, if you don't know where the town hall is, you go to Bratton Way or the highway. And that's, so Bratton Way was what they approved.
There was never a resolution passed.
Yes,
There was never a resolution written or read about that, by the way.
I think it's something you should bring up with the board, Mike, because then they can find the ordinance or the resolution, they're the ones who need to pass it. Or need to enact it, because if we'd have to do research to find it before we can recommend anything, I think.
so I like your, it's Bratton Way or the highway. Huh?
that's right.
Yeah.
Is it, do you know when it was done, when the resolution was done?
It was the last meeting that Howard attended, so I can get it for you.
It was 2013.
Yeah.
It was probably March.
I remember there was discussion about naming it.
There was discussion. There was never a resolution passed. There was never a resolution written or read.
Okay, well, either way, if you could just see what you can find, Renee, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. So, we're moving quick. On to your new business,
New
Bill.
business, okay, so I was able to find it. That there's a new, or modified board of trustees. So, Dick, this is going to be chapter 2, section 2-222, subparagraph B. And 2-222 is powers and duties of the planning commission.
It says dash 222.
Yeah, 2-222. And so that reads, in addition, the planning commission shall recommend to the board of trustees approval of the issuance of building permits which have been properly applied for and which are in accordance with rules and regulations of town. The board of trustees may empower the planning commission to grant final approval of building permits under such conditions that it deems to be in the best interests of the town. The planning commission shall have authority to advise the board of trustees with regards to the determining requirements for the following. So I'd be looking for the board of trustees to empower us to grant final approval of building permits under such conditions.
What are those conditions?
Okay, so it's provided for, and this, for the board to empower the planning commission to approve building permits, certain building permits. And
So
you're
architectural
saying-
review is one of those, fence permits, shed permits.
Okay,
So is it kind of just trying to back ourselves up in case it can't be found that we do have that authorization in the past?
It would be a good idea if we had an affirmation from the board of trustees that we've been empowered to make those decisions.
How has it
To
been?
approve, yeah.
Well, it has been done. I mean, 2 years ago, I posed the question and didn't get a response.
Okay.
How is it being done?
Well, we've been doing it with what is the wording? With assumed authority on behalf of the board of trustees.
And I think the board assumes that's authority too.
Well, that's fine. I mean, it'd be nice to have that affirmation periodically that we're on the right track. We're not overstepping our bounds.
So how would you word that motion if you want to make it?
Why is it necessary?
It probably isn't necessary. I'm just suggesting that it might be a good idea that where the wording in the code says that the Board of Trustees may empower the Planning Commission to grant final approval of building permits under such conditions that it deems to be in the best interests of the town. So we're making decisions that otherwise the Board of Trustees would make.
Sounds to me like for the planning commission, the board of trustees has already granted the permission that you can approve it. Why go through another step? I'm a little confused about that, I'm not following the whole.
Can I add something? That authority was granted quite some time ago. The board felt that as long as the planning commission decided that, and that was at a time when the planning commission did site visits. As long as they deemed that the setbacks were correct, there really wasn't an awful lot more that the planning commission could do. They didn't have the expertise to do a plan check for
Well, why would the board of trustees have that expertise?
and there wasn't any reason because neither body had the expertise. And so they granted that authority to the planning commission. I'm thinking sometime in the late 80s or early 90s, just as a time-saving measure. The only reason that the board wanted to see anything that came out of the planning commission is if there was a zoning or
A special use.
a special use, correct,
Conditional special use.
correct.
Yeah, and I could see it also being something where, since we're not elected, if we started going crazy for some reason or doing something that the public.
Well, that's something that the
approve
board
of,
would step in and,
right, then you would take away that authorization from us. Because
But
we
that-
are doing stuff. we
right,
shouldn't be doing.
but, you know, granting a final okay for a building permit the process doesn't end there. Because you still have to go to the building department
Right.
Right.
and pass all those inspections. So there really was no reason to burden the board with that responsibility.
That's valid, very valid.
Yeah,
Don't burden the board with something.
And if you wanna spend the time and money to find out when that happened, that's fine, but I think it's silly to spend the time and money to find out when exactly that authority was granted, but the thing is that it was granted.
Just reaffirm what we've been doing.
Well,
It's an acknowledgement that, yes, you're doing what.
Well, if you want a one-time approval, one-time affirmation, or a one-time approval, that you now have the say in any permits. If you want the board.
Well, it was not an authority that was ever taken away.
Right, that's right. I don't know why it's.
Why are we addressing it again?
so I can understand where you're coming from.
I think the,
If three of you say, no, it's not good, I'm done. I'm throwing it out on the table for discussion.
Yeah, I'm not
My
sure.
2 cents worth, it would be good to have the board of trustees say, yes, you're still empowered to grant final approval on building permits that we deem in the best interest of the town.
So,
Oh, you're not asking the board to approve every permit?
No,
Oh, okay. Just
no, it's to empower us to make those decisions.
Yeah,
It's like getting baptized
The
again.
planning
Yes.
commission, to me, is most qualified to do it. I don't know if they have setbacks, they have all.
so I'm thinking maybe if you can figure out exactly how you want to word that motion, and then we can do that next time.
That's fine, I can do that.
Because I think we want to have a very specific motion to look at, not
Yeah.
just, you know,
I can do that.
I'm willing to vote on it with you, but it's just, I think we need to have it specific.
Really, I agree with you. The paragraph as written is confusing. Because the word may empower is in there.
Yeah, I mean, you may or may not.
We don't have any documentation to say that they actually did empower us to do certain things. And then the last sentence says, we advise them, and it lists them, we advise them to make a decision, and it lists a lot of things that we've been doing ourselves. So I think your
Looks like
motion would be
it's-
appropriate.
Could I already done, let me get done with this. Thanks. Can I sign that? Okay, so we're good to go till next time on that.
Good, yep.
And so what I gave to you guys is just one of the drafts of something I did, but we have a couple other ones we're looking at too. So that's definitely not final, anything like that. It's just a draft of one thing we're gonna look at. So I think we passed a couple different short-term rental, applications, rules, those kind of things, that Willie and I have worked up, for you guys to look over. Definitely not final, but just more of a draft of what we could possibly be looking at. So, sorry I didn't get mine out to you guys earlier. I didn't actually get mine done till this afternoon. But,
6 o'clock?
What one is yours?
5?
Is this yours?
What?
Is this one yours?
Yeah. And it didn't have some of the specifics in it because I couldn't find the documents the notes that Dick had taken to put in more of the specifics of what we decided, but, and we can make more copies of this for everyone to look at.
Yeah, I like to do that.
Okay.
Jimmy.
Yeah, I can make enough copies for everyone. And I can also email out the Word documents to everyone so that
Those are different.
anybody, you know, if you guys want to bring stuff together, make edits and come up with something that you really like, you can do that too. So, since I just gave these to you guys, I know there's not a lot to discuss. I read all yours last week.
Yeah, the other stuff I finished at 6 tonight.
Yeah.
I took the liberty of editing the house rules
Okay.
a little bit. I removed redundancies where it says, it was wildlife. I cropped a sentence out of that in that, it's illegal. You don't need any more rationale behind that. I started adding quiet with respect to being respectful of your neighbors. Wanted to plug in, for house rules, what the quiet time is. I know we discussed.
7, isn't it?
Yeah. Seven, to me, I mean, I like it quiet, but I think 7 is unreasonably early.
Yeah.
I agree it is also, but I think that's what's in the
7,
rules
what's
right
that?
now.
Well, there's a
It's
7,
10.
Is it 10?
Yeah.
I think it's 10 to 7.
And I put
But
9
that's for
o'clock.
business.
Just the-
That's for business activities.
Yeah.
It's like if somebody, contractors in jackhammering a rock out of the yard.
It's 7 to 7.
I can't chase
Yeah.
my people in house from outside if they're having a barbecue and a good time.
I agree, like 7 would be really early, 10's much more reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I
9,
10, but
9, 10, yeah.
my thought is put that in the house rules. Here are the quiet hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I wrote on my rules that, we have to let the neighbors have the right to quiet, respect the neighbor's right to quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing. We have a guideline for rules. People can write their rules any way they want, as long as they cover those rules. How they word it and everything, it doesn't matter.
As long as it meets the requirements that we
Right.
we
You don't have to word it
accept,
exactly.
recommend to the board.
You don't have to word it the way you word it,
Yeah.
as long as it meets the requirement we want.
Right.
Because every house is different, every house is gonna have to have a special set of set of rules. I mean, especially.
If you don't have pets, if you don't allow pets, you don't allow
Right.
smoking,
Right,
there's two items.
and if you have stuff inside the house, for example, what was one, as silly as what, one of the applications has this glass top stove, you know,
Yeah.
convection stuff, and she wants that cleaned properly and make sure it's maintained properly. She could put that in her rules.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's
It's all
all,
custom.
we're only
Yeah.
for the minimum, we're not, people can say whatever they want on top of that, but, one thing that I thought maybe we should require is, in the Glenwood Springs rules, they required, I think it was Glenwood Springs, that all the houses have carbon monoxide detectors and smoke detectors.
That's what she's law. I mean,
Well, yeah, but people who are just renting out their house,
Fire extinguishers, they should.
If you have a 50-year-old cabin, it probably doesn't have a smoke detector
I mean,
or a
Well, it doesn't
CO2.
have to be hardwired, but as long as they have a smoke detector
Right.
and where it says 8 between bedrooms,
yeah,
18
so,
inches off the ground.
So you don't go into specifics with, I mean,
No.
to stay out of the liability chain, you know, must comply with current
well,
fire.
you can't say comply with current fire,
Yeah,
because it's
you
not getting
can,
against
Eric,
that.
because I'll tell you what I did when I first when I first started renting all these cottages. I went down to the fire department and I had the fire chief or assistant chief come to the house and ask him what I needed in this house. He told me I needed a carbon monoxide, I needed a fire extinguisher, he told me where to put the fire extinguisher.
Right, and so
That's-
I think we can say, you need to have a carbon monoxide detector, you need to have a smoke detector, you have to have a fire extinguisher.
And I think you should add that they have to be inspected by the fire department too, I think it would be, you know.
That's going too far.
No.
I
I don't think we can say that. I mean, we could say that, but I don't know if we should say that.
Maybe you should just suggest it.
Yeah, I think a suggestion is a much
Yeah.
better, because the fire department's happy to go up there and.
Yeah,
clean your
exactly,
house.
that's what I'm saying, I've seen it.
Well, that's just a CYA for them.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so, I mean, we can put in there, we suggest you get the fire department to come take a look at your house.
Well, you know, if they charge, if they had a charge for that, it'd be a little different story. They'd be
They
happy to do
But it's
that.
free,
But they're still happy to do it, so,
yeah, so,
but you have
It's
to
very
have.
educational, I mean, I had houses that needed things and they just weren't there,
Well, coupled with the fact that if you have a CO detector that's associated with your carbon monoxide, your fire alarm, if you have a problem with CO, by the time it reaches the fire
detector,
deal on the ceiling, you're overcome with CO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I've had numerous fire inspectors and electricians explain to me the prudence of having a plug-in CO detector that plugs into the
18 inches above the wall
Right.
between the two bedrooms.
right. Because if it's included in the smoke detector, it's pretty much useless.
Yeah, you're too late.
Yeah, most realtors, when most realtors are selling a house gets sold, let's say they take over the house for listing, they'll have the locksmith, they'll change the locks, they'll have them go in and put the carbon monoxide detectors in between the bedrooms or wherever they know.
thanks, you were writing on this.
No, that's just, I just still use mine, that
Okay,
That's a bad one. Is it the same?
one of each.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
I think
I'll
that's.
take that out. No, I've got one of those.
Thank you, Renee.
Sorry, so do you have those?
She's okay.
There's no government.
Chairman, these have.
Well, we didn't have copies for everyone. We only had copies for 2 people.
I got copies.
Okay. You can give,
Pass it out.
ask those guys. if you don't. So I realize you guys aren't gonna be able to look at the stuff Willie and I had in depth right now, but I would say for next time, you guys can go over them, mark them up, add in what you wanna add in, take out what you wanna take out, and then we can talk about how we actually want this to look to go to the board next time. What does everybody think about that?
I'm good with that.
Okay,
Will we see quiet times are?
I think we should check, but I
Well, I mean, what's in the ordinance is for, a business who's making noise.
Say that again.
So what I did in the house rules under neighbors was what was gonna plug in what the quiet times are. So, and then, so I redid house rules, just a little edit.
Did you mail those out? Or email?
I can email them,
Cool,
I'll
thank you.
send them to Renee, and,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I'll send them to Renee.
I don't think it's midnight, it's surely earlier than midnight.
Mr. Chairman, I know we're working hard and have been working hard for months on how to regulate STRs.
Mhm.
Boils down to we recognize that we need an ordinance. I think we should also recognize that we don't try to write an ordinance that does everything. An ordinance is a law, it goes through a tough process to be approved, including public hearings. That's one level of authority, is a law, public law, an ordinance. Underneath that, you have policies and procedures, which dictate maybe how the application form looks. An item on house rules. I'm not sure house rules belong in an ordinance. And other considerations.
I agree.
So we have 2 levels of documentation to deal with.
Mhm.
One is law, and the other is policy, procedures, and regulations.
I agree, and I think that's part of what we're looking at, because we don't wanna put the burden on Renee
Right,
to have to write up an application, and we can do it as part of this.
right.
So, and I think if we're designing what we're sending to the board for an ordinance, along with our application in tandem, and with house rules and all of that together, we're gonna have something that's more complete, and
Yes,
better for everyone if it's all taken into account at the same time.
right.
But on that note, I thought about that earlier when I started, it was writing something that could be conceived as an ordinance. And then I backed off on that and went down from the bottom and worked up, and what is it that we want as far as this policy or procedure? And I've never written any law. I don't know what needs to go in there. And so if we were to provide the information that we would recommend be in an ordinance, and possibly the board of trustees would have the town attorney write that.
Oh, now you're talking about big bucks.
Well, I mean, but part of this too, like this one, the one I gave you guys, it's not taken verbatim, but it is taken.
A lot of
from the
copy and
ordinance.
paste, yeah.
Yeah, it's a copy and paste. What Dick said before, that we don't need to rewrite we don't need to just come up with stuff out of thin air, is totally right. We need to find the work, we can use the work other towns have done, come up with something that works well.
Massage it to fit our needs.
Great, and if, hopefully, their attorney has already gone over it,
Okay.
so that way our attorneys will still need to go over it, but not quite to the
Right.
in-depth
Okay,
extent
okay.
that he would otherwise. So, that was kind of my idea with the short-term rentals, stuff I gave you guys, was that, not the application, because I gave an application too, but the actual, like, kind of rules, laws, is that it leaves as little for our attorney and to do as possible because we're taking what other towns have already done. So,
Well, I agree with what Dick said. I think most of the stuff that we're talking about is rules and regulations. And I don't mean rules and regulations what they put inside their house. We're talking about rules and regulations, what they have to do to get a permit.
but we need to have that in the code because that was part of the problem before. It was just on the application.
But it wasn't in the code, and there was never a problem in somebody getting a vacation rental approved. The only problem I saw was that everybody's now doing it differently. So you're right, there needs to be something concrete.
And I think that's part of the reason you have to have some of this as an ordinance, because I think,
Like
I
what?
don't necessarily totally understand, I'm
What
not.
would you call it, what would you put in the code? What would you consider something that needs?
The 2 pages, with the short term rentals at the top is what I got from a couple other codes.
These 2 pages that the chairman,
Right.
those are kind of like what you want to see in an ordinance.
Yeah.
The rest of the documents are
Right,
policy and procedure.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If your ordinance is too long and too detailed, it's hell to change your ordinance. You better be pretty right on the first time, or else you get in a big quagmire at public hearings to change an ordinance. So if there's things that you can handle under the policy and procedures that don't have to be in the ordinance, that's where they belong. So you may want to scrub down these 2 pages, take out some of the stuff that might fit under policy and
You
procedures.
agree, we'll read them.
One technique is, in your ordinance, you refer to a policy. That's administrative policy.
And that's
By-
where,
By name and number.
that's where I like to
And
see.
that gives you a chance to change that without having to change the ordinance.
Yeah, and that's where I'd like to see what you guys come up with for the
Okay.
next time, because everybody's gonna have some good input on this. And taking what everyone does and then after everyone does their edits next time and comes up with what they'd like to see, I can take it, bring everything together and have one document that we can, that's
Right.
all of our work
That's all
put
we
together,
see.
so. Cause I think everyone has some good ideas about it. And of course, wanna hear from you guys too, if you got input, so.
Thank you. I would say that, although Dick makes sense about the ordinance part, the policies are not the part that you should water down. If you want compliance, that's where the nuts and bolts of this is gonna be. The ordinance is gonna justify the application and the policies. And so that probably should be relatively simple, but the policies need to be pretty thorough.
The terms and conditions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have a unique opportunity to do just that. I noticed that on the first short-term rental application form I got, there's no mention of acceptance or denial. There is a 5/8 inch long line after no for short-term rental approved on the second one. I firmly believe that there should be you show here a line for date of approval, but there's the short-term rental approved, yes or no. I think if you deny one, you need to specify why.
And there was a big set at the bottom of that one when I was trying to get everything, there was a lot of stuff specific to one of the towns, and I didn't have time to fix it all to get it on there, so.
Is there an application?
I don't have yours.
Okay.
the one you
There's
have.
good stuff in both of these.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then once again, it's just a start, so, hopefully when we come back together next time, we'll all have some really good stuff to put in it, to take out of it. And then be able to, I'll put all that together and have something ready for the meeting after that for us to take to the board.
This is April. Has anyone come forward to apply for a special use?
Has anybody renewed their fee?
Have what?
Have there been any renewal fees set in?
We don't have a renewal fee
We
yet.
don't have that, we don't
That's
have
not in place yet.
that isn't,
Soon.
so. But I've heard a lot of,
Well, we've ordered 55 people.
on the,
Has anybody set in their tax? They have, okay.
Some have, not all, but some.
What's the due date for the tax?
April 20th. I just checked.
So the correspondence on the planning commission?
Oh, yeah. I sent everybody an email reminding them of the procedures that were approved by the board several years ago. We've been pretty much following them. This is my copy.
That's right under here.
Yeah, here it is. There's 8 steps. First is the board starts the process by announcing a vacancy. And I recommended that the board put that on their agenda for their very first meeting, so we get the process officially started. Then the town clerk posts a notice and makes the public aware that the position is there and tells the public how to apply. We already have standard application form, step 3. Reasonable deadline for receipt of applications. In the past, we've panicked, it's been kind of short, so we try to take a little more time, especially if we start right away. And then the applications, when they can come in, the clerk would send those to all the planning commission members and the board members at the same time. Attachment to an email would be easiest, probably. That way people are familiar with the candidates before they have to select. The planning commission gets first crack, they decide who they'd like to have work with them, and they submit their name recommendation to the board, and the board considers the planning commission recommendation, and after reviewing all the applications, they should be able to make a decision.
Is there something we could post on the town website?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I said post office.
Oh, I said post office, but post at both places.
Yeah, definitely. For those of us only go to the post office every 2 weeks. Thanks, Dick.
Okay.
And I think that actually is it for tonight.
Have a gem of new business.
Okay.
Happened to be at a meeting in Woodland Park. I was given to understand that since the apartment complex next door to Safeway has been completed and is
Cool.
completely occupied or spoken for, if not saying it hasn't been. The developers of that project are in negotiations with the Saddle Club to buy the 10 or 11 acres where the old sewer ponds used to be in Woodland Park, along with.
We might have to back out on that one.
Well, I'm just.
Yeah, we were, but something's come up, we might unfortunately back out.
But what I'm getting at is that the developers are so satisfied with the completion of their first project that they're looking around for another one. The one that I understood was negotiating with the Saddle Club for the sewer pond property and the trailer park adjacent to it to do 12 more units.
Is that between Safeway and
Yes.
Walmart?
Yes. Regardless of where they decide to do it, there's property that's available where the old Paradise Inn was. It's probably close to the same size. But we're looking at, somebody is serious about putting in 12 to 15 more units exactly like what's next door to Safeway. And by doing that, they're gonna be covering with a hard surface most of that acreage. So we're looking at 10 to 15 acres that's not gonna be absorbing water anymore. And I think that it's in our best interest to get involved in that with the city of Woodland Park and our planning early on, because once the project goes through, once the project is approved, they will do that. It's obvious that, you know, if they've been successful with one, they're gonna try and be successful with another, and they will cover every inch of permeable ground in Woodland Park, and it all comes here.
Yeah.
So that's something that we really need to be aware of.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. What should the planning commission do?
Well, I think, use whatever influence you have with the board to make sure that they get involved to protect the citizens of Green Mountain Falls from a nasty flash flood. And a nasty flash flood that can occur 4, 5, 6 times a year. So if you have to complain, if the board has to complain to the Corps of Engineers or to the State Board of Health, whatever they have to do, they need to do something to make sure that problem gets mitigated before it washes Green Mountain Falls
I think
away.
your point is well taken, but maybe you should do this in public comment before the board.
Well, I think
I can't think of anything the planning commission can do. I really don't.
Well,
We can make a
we can make a
recommendation.
recommendation.
Okay,
I'm not, oh wait, I'm not saying no yet, I'm just saying that's what we could do.
I thought that's what he asked for.
Yeah.
Would have asked for the planning commission to use our influence to.
Right.
we don't have any influence with the park, I'm sorry.
No,
That's
influence
our
on,
government.
influence on the Green Mountain Falls Board of Trustees to.
I'm ready to write a motion, somebody'd like to make one. If no motion's made, we're done.
Well, no, I'm just
I mean, we can
thinking
stand up
if we
and-
do make a motion, how we phrase it, I'm thinking about it for a second.
Okay,
The only thing we can do is recommend to the trustees that they contact the county, because that's who's gonna be in charge of this water. If there's any need for water deviation or retaining walls or anything, it's gonna be a county.
Teller County.
Yeah, they're
Well,
not
there's-
gonna even look at it.
there's part of the-
And it's gonna be Pikes Peak Regional Building, who will be,
The city, Woodland Park's involved too.
oh, no, I know they are, yeah.
I mean, that's more additional water going
Oh, I understand.
all the way down.
That's obvious.
So we recommend that the board get involved in planning for additional storm runoff from
Future projects.
a multitude of construction projects that will pave more of the surface of Woodland Park, increasing the flow in Fountain Creek. Is that,
It's my concern.
and I can just put that in the minutes
Yeah,
without a motion if you want.
I mean, I think it wouldn't be bad.
I'll
to make a
yield
motion.
if somebody has a better way of phrasing it. Go ahead.
Something to think about.
And that's fine, you do whatever you want. I'm gonna bring it up at the board meeting,
Good, good.
for sure, but, because
And I'll
that
put it in the
really
minutes.
concerns
Yeah,
me.
I don't think there needs.
And I'll
Yes,
put it
I
in the
think,
minutes.
I think you should definitely put it in the minutes.
Yeah.
That it's something that's being discussed and it's something that's.
Yeah.
It is something that we definitely need to think about. And bringing it up in the board meeting is gonna just reemphasize that.
Right.
So,
Madam Mayor, Mr. Chairman, has there been any kind of information given to the town about any of this happening to us? Are we looking at having more flood water come down than we already have now? I mean, have we got anything from the county, from Woodland Park, from Corps of Engineers, or?
They're not required.
yeah,
They're
None
not
of
required.
them required, so we gotta step up, to see if we can get the information.
I mean, I think it's been discussed here and it's been discussed other places that while a lot of the towns along Fountain Creek have been trying to cooperate together, the Woodland Park hasn't necessarily been part of that.
Well, no, they don't, they really, it's not their interest.
Right,
As far as they're concerned, it's not their interest to
Yeah.
comply with anything that we do downstream.
right.
That,
But,
you
you
know,
know,
they're in
some
a
of the-
unique position that they sit on a divide. Half of the flow that falls on Woodland Park goes north and half of the flow goes
Yeah.
east. And that's pretty much it.
Thanks for bringing that up, Mike.
You bet.
Anything else anyone wants to discuss before we adjourn?
No, but I would like to say thank you very much for the opportunity to serve on the planning commission. It's your fault.
Yeah, I
I
know.
wasn't applying. I was never a politician before, and now I am. Thanks to you, you created a monster.
We're glad to have you on.
Thank you, and I need to get home, this medication is wearing off. So,
And how many board members are there?
Huh?
I should say, how many board members are you seeing? If it's wearing off, Jim.
So we're going to adjourn the meeting at 7:20. Sorry, I mean, I'm not used to.
Thank you again.
Where's the second seven?
Get out of here.